Hello, good morning all. Am I audible?
Yes, madam, you are audible.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Department of ISE, BMSCE-I, Dr. Shubha Rao, we cordially welcome you all to the inaugural function. Let us start the event by seeking the blessings of Lord Almighty. I request Dr. Shambhavi BR to begin the occasion with an invocation song. Shambhavi ma'am?
Yes, महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि महागणपतिं वसिष्ठवामदेवादिवन्दितमहागणपतिं वसिष्ठवामदेवादिवन्दितमहागणपतिं महादेवसुतम् महादेवसुतं गुरुगुहनुतं महादेवसुतं गुरुगुहनुतं मारकोटि प्रकाशं शान्तं महादेवसुतं गुरुगुहनुतं मारकोटि प्रकाशं शान्तं महाकाव्यनाटकादिप्रियम् महाकाव्यनाटकादिप्रियम् महाकाव्यनाटकादिप्रियं मूषिकवाहनमोदकप्रियं महाकाव्यनाटकादिप्रियं मूषिकवाहनमोदकप्रियं पापं गमरि सरि सरि सपम गम प దని सरि गम मरि सरि सनि पम गमनि पमरि गमरि रि स रि स सनि प मगमरि सरि गमाः गणपतिं वसिष्ठवामदेवादिवन्दितमहा गणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि महा गणपतिम्
Thank you, Shambhavi ma'am, for the beautiful rendition. Now, I request Dr. Dakshayani, Professor and HOD of Information Science and Engineering, to formally welcome the gathering. Dakshayani ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Shubha. Good morning, one and all present here. I am Dr. M. Dakshayani, HOD and Professor working in the Department of Information Science and Engineering. It gives me an immense pleasure to start this faculty development program on 5G technology by welcoming all of you. You might be thinking why we have to get trained on 5G technology and what is the use. So when we started studying this, we got many information. One of the report, like Ericsson Mobile report said, around 26% of mobile subscriptions in India would be 5G by the end of the year 2026. And the Department of Telecom DOT has already allocated 5G trial spectrum to telecom operators to start 5G trials in our country. And according to the industry resources, the trial will be conducted at various locations, including Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Bengaluru, Gujarat, Hyderabad, and other places. So we thought it is very important to train the faculty on this updated technology so that we can prepare our students to be ready with work with our both software and our hardware. Hence, we This FDP was planned with the intent of active and interactive learning on 5G technology by the Department of Information Science and Engineering of BMS College of Engineering, which was established in the year 1946 before independence as one of the first private engineering college in the country by the great visionary and philanthropist late Shri B.M. Srinivasaya. Now, the college BMSCE is an aided autonomous institution by the government of Karnataka and affiliated to Vishweshwaraya Technological University, Belagavi, Karnataka. Today, our college is well known for its quality, skillful education, research, and innovations, which has completed 75 years of its meaningful existence in the field of education. And it has got accredited by NAC with the highest grade of A++ in the second cycle with a CGPA of 3.83 on a scale of 4. And ours was the first institution to get accredited by NBA in Tier 1 format in the state of Karnataka. It runs 13 UG programs, 16 PG programs, and 14 research centers, and all of which are accredited by NBA. Today, we have with us an experienced R&D manager, distinguished Toastmaster, a technical leader in the telecommunication industry for more than 15 years, Mr. NIKIL BHAT, R&D line manager, Nokia Networks, Bengaluru, who has graciously consented to be the keynote speaker of today's program. I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir, to this program.
Okay.
We are fortunate to have always encouraging great leaders, our beloved principal, Dr. B.V. Ravishankar, and Vice Principal, Dr. S. Muralidhara, who have been the constant guiding force and backbone support for all the activities that we conduct in our college. I welcome you, Principal, sir.
Okay.
And I welcome you, Vice Principal, sir, to this program. An order orator, devoted teacher, and an eminent academician who has mesmerized scholars and people of varied caliber with his intellect and charm all over India, Dr. H.S. Guruprasad is Professor, Department of Information Science and Engineering, and Dean, Student Affairs, BMS College of Engineering. I wish to extend a warm welcome to you, sir.
Okay.
Faculty who have been devoted to the most meaningful and worthwhile task of teaching and training our youth, who is going to shape the future of our nation, who plays major role in molding future quality engineers of our country. I would like to welcome all my faculty colleagues here who have gathered here as participants from diverse places across the country. I welcome all of you to this program.
Okay.
I would wish to extend my hearty welcome to all the speakers, Mr. Mahesh, Senior Engineer Cisco, Mr. Sandeep Rao, Networking Professional Cisco, Mr. Guruprasad PJ, R&D Lead, Nokia Networks, Mr. Vinay, Senior Architect, Nokia Networks, Mr. Mohandas Hegde, and Dr. Sudhindra KR, Professor, Department of Electronics, BMSCE, who have kindly agreed to be the speakers of various sessions of this program. I welcome all of you to this program. I welcome Professor Yogesh and Dr. Shubharao, who have been the key people throughout to design and take this FDP to the state that it has been the reality of the day today. I welcome you both. I welcome all my colleagues and friends to this FDP program. I hope that all of you will enjoy learning various aspects of 5G technology in these 5 days. I sincerely wish that this FDP will be a grand success, and I again extend a warm welcome to everyone present here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dakshani ma'am, for the warm welcome. Now, I would like to brief the learning that will happen in the next 5 days. 5G is the 5th generation of cellular technology. It is designed to increase speed, reduce latency, and improve the flexibility of wireless services. 5G technology has a theoretical peak speed of 20 Gbps, while the peak speed of 4G is only 1 Gbps. 5G also promises lower latency, which can improve the performance of business application as well as other digital experiences like online gaming, video conferencing, and self-driving cars. This has made 5G a buzzword in recent times. This FDP will aid the participants to enhance their knowledge in 5G technology. This program takes a detailed walkthrough on the various capabilities challenges underlying the conceptualization and implementation of 5G wireless communication standards. The FDP will make you familiar with the basics, use cases, 5G architecture and design, 5G spectrum, core network architecture, network slicing, testing, security, and 5G software development principles. The hands-on session on CRAN, 5G simulation, and network slicing is a part of our program that gives you more insight into 5G. Hope you will all have an effective learning experience. Thank you. Now, I request Dr. H.S. Guruprasad, Professor and Dean Student Affairs, to deliver the presidential speech. Guruprasad sir, over to you.
Yes, madam. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, all of you. It's nice that all of you are attending a workshop on 5G, and also it's a nice initiation to have a workshop on 5G. I think the Department of ISC under the leadership of Dakshayani madam is working on 5G since last 2-3 years. And I think we were one of the premier institutions to address 5G in our syllabus also. I think our UG has it as an elective and PG also has this 5G technology as an elective. It is quite challenging to have these kind of courses in our syllabus, even when these courses are in an infant stage. But yes, the Department of ISC has done it. Now, it is nice that all of you want to attend, learn about the 5G technologies. See, I am curious with 4 challenges of 5G. Anyway, advantages of 5G, all of you know. With 5G, yes, almost all the areas are impacted. Latency is less, bandwidth is more. I have done my PhD on bandwidth management. I can understand the importance of higher bandwidth. I am not going to talk about the advantages. I think all of you can imagine, all of you know. But the challenges that always comes into my mind is how many mobiles can support this 5G, and what will be the cost of the mobile, what will be the architecture of these mobiles. So with respect to mobile, yes, I have a few doubts, clarifications, few questions in my mind. That is one challenge. Okay. Then second one is the coverage. How much coverage this 5G technology can have, and also will it be uniform or will there be a disparity? Urban areas, rural areas. So how the coverage will be? That is another curious point that always comes to my mind. And third one is the cost. What may be the cost? We know 4G cost. There are so many internet service providers, mobile. Uh, but what will be the cost of this 5G? Can it be? Will it be affordable? So cost is something which always comes into my mind. And the last one is battery usage. See, battery usage is very important, especially with respect to mobiles. So when the bandwidth is very high, and Shubharao madam was speaking to an extent of 20 GB. So now we are in 1 GB. So when that is the kind of bandwidth, definitely storage also will be more. Bandwidth is more, data is transferred fast, storage is more. So what could be the battery capacity? What may be the battery capacity? How the compatibility of this speed, storage, and battery capacity will happen? That is the fourth question that always comes to my mind. Somehow these are 4 things that always there in my mind with respect to 5G technology. Apart from that, I tell you, whenever you are attending a workshop, please attend the workshop. After the workshop, you have to conduct a workshop for your students. With that frame of mind, please attend the workshop so that you are serious in the workshop. Because if you are just a listener, I attend the workshop, after that I forget. After that I don't do anything. With that, if you attend a workshop, the seriousness will be a question mark. That too online. Therefore, keep in your mind from day one, after attending this 5 days FDP, I have to conduct an FDP for my students or my field faculty. So with that frame of mind, please attend the workshop. I tell you, it will be very fruitful because you will not miss any concept, and you will ask questions, you will invoke discussions, and that is very important. When you ask a question, when you invoke a discussion, not only you are helping yourself, you are helping all the other participants also. Have a friendly discussions with the speakers also. So enjoy those discussions. Don't just be mute listeners. And also I tell you, For teachers, understanding a new concept always is a pleasure. So, being a good listener, yes, we learn a lot. And I believe in doing one thing at a time. If I am attending the workshop, I'll forget the whole world, I will attend the workshop. That too, with online, we know. Be accountable for yourself. Okay, don't be accountable for anyone. Be accountable for yourself. Sincerely attend the workshop. Be accountable for yourself online. And I tell you, return on investment. Always I tell, I believe in return on investment. Meaning, all the participants, you are investing almost 5 days of your precious life for this workshop. There should be some returns. You are investing 5 days, and also time is very important. See, all of us know how much money we have in our bank account, but how much time we have in our life, how much time is left, nobody knows. Kal ho ya na ho. So that is what is pandemic we have all seen. Therefore, you are investing 5 days of your precious time for this workshop. Please bother about the returns. There should be good returns. See that your investment does not go waste, and those returns should reap profits for a long time. You conduct workshops, you teach the students. There are a lot of outcomes from these FDPs. So be thorough with all those. And uh, don't be hesitant in asking doubts. For me, there is no silly doubt, there is no big doubt, there is no small doubt. Doubt is a doubt. So whenever you have a doubt, feel free to ask the doubt, invoke healthy discussions. That way you will enjoy the workshops. And also, at last, I wish all of you a happy journey of this 5G workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Guru Prasad sir, for your insight about the challenges and issues in 5G technology, and
Yes,
also thought-provoking advices and suggestions. Definitely, we all will take that advice and go further work on 5G, sir. Thank you.
yes, madam.
I request Professor Yogesh sir to introduce the chief guest for today's function, Mr. Nikhil Bhatt, R&D Line Manager, Nokia Networks. Yogesh sir, over to you.
Madam, is it audible?
Yeah, yes, it is audible.
Good morning to one and all gathered here. I, Yogesh N, Assistant Professor, Department of Information Science and Engineering, BMSc. It's my privilege to introduce today's chief guest, Mr. Nikhil V. Bhatt, R&D Line Manager, Nokia. Sir has graduated from Bangalore Institute of Technology, Bangalore, and he has pursued his master's in telecom and networking from International Institute of Information Technology, Pune. He is also MBA graduate from IIM Bangalore. He has more than 15 years of experience. During this period, he was worked in various departments of telecommunication and acquired various positions in the reputed companies like Wipro, Motorola, and Nokia. Currently, he is leading R&D team in Nokia that handles various project deliverables across different radio access technologies like 3G, WCDMA, 4G, LTE, 5G, O-RAN. He has mentored student internship and conducted several innovation workshops for business line. Sir has also published papers on technology and management. He has been awarded as Distinguished Toastmaster for several years, which represents the highest level of educational achievement in Toastmasters. He has an experience in conducting leadership development sessions. Thank you. Now I request Mr. Nikhil V. Bhatt to give keynote address. Over to Nikhil Bhatt. Sir, Nikhil Bhatt, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Yogesh. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Mr. Yogesh, and I really thank the entire department of ISC to invite me over today as the chief guest for this function. Firstly, I'd like to thank Dr. Dakshayani, Head of Department ISC, Dr. Shubha Rao, Dr. Sudhindra, Dr. H.S. Guru Prasad, as Head of Student Affairs. It's my great privilege and honor here, sir, and professors to be here today at this function. I would like to actually share some content that I have. So I hope I will be able to do that now. Okay. Is it visible? Is the screen visible by any chance?
It's not.
I'll stop sharing, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Now you can start sharing.
Okay. I'm trying to share. Okay. I think I've started sharing. Is it coming up now?
Not yet.
I did have some trouble in the morning, but I'm hoping that doesn't trouble me now.
It's not coming, sir.
Let me try to share once again. Okay. Is anything visible now, madam?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
NIKIL, sir.
Yes, madam. Is it visible now? Is my screen visible? Can you hear me, madam?
Sir, it's not visible.
Okay.
I do one thing, sir. You send your PPT to Madam mail ID, so she can share.
Okay. Okay. I can do that. I can do that right away. Just give me 1 second. I'm just sending to Shubha Rao, ma'am. You know, sometimes when we are trying to share from one organization, I think it does give some problems. Okay, I've just shared my slides.
NIKIL, sir.
Yes, can you hear me, madam?
Yeah, can you mail me the PPT? I'll share.
I have just shared it to you, madam. Just now I have sent an email.
Okay, I'll just check it out, sir.
I think it's coming up now, madam. If you can just
Yes,
confirm.
sir. It's
Okay.
coming.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. You know, though we talk about 5G, sometimes these basic things doesn't work. So, but yes, I hope now everything is visible. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much once again for the invitation. You know, today my talk is going to be about 5G, of course, use cases, and maybe like what Dr. Guru Prasad, in fact, indicated in the beginning about a couple of challenges that he indicated. I hope that some of those gets covered in my presentation also. So today I have my agenda for the next 30 minutes is to basically, you know, go through these key things. First is I would like to, you know, talk about the current trends in 5G. What does the 5G market look like? What is the ecosystem looking like? And then I'll come into the crux of my presentation, which is on the use cases of 5G. And finally, we'll talk a little bit about what 5G or beyond 5G or 6G holds for us. So I think all of you would know and be aware that this is our, you know, the evolution of 5G has been, of course, in gradual steps. It has not happened overnight. We started off with 1G and 2G and 3G, right, over the last several decades. In fact, since the 1980s, we had 1G, and of course, the corresponding devices were those bulky, you know, phones that we used to carry. And then in 1990s, we had started to get 2G with, you know, the sizes started to reduce, the antennas became smaller. And then we gradually moved into 2.5G, 3G, right? And then the focus started to shift towards mobile data. If you see on the top, we were all in voice, and then it started to move the focus into mobile data in the 2000s with the introduction of 3G, and where we had WCDMA, HSPA, and those technologies coming in. And then by 2010s, we introduced ourselves to 4LT or 4G as we call it, LT advanced, and the focus again shifted more from mobile data to mobile broadband. And but in all these generations, you see the centerpiece around it was the mobile phone, right? all the technologies up to 4G were all around one device. That was the user equipment that was being carried around. Now with the introduction of 5G, I think suddenly the things have changed dramatically, because we're not only talking about one device any longer. We are talking about a multitude of devices around us. Right, we are talking about the mobile, of course, is one part of it. We are talking about connected factories, connected vehicles. We are talking about AR, VR. We are talking about remote surgeries, devices, and so on. So there's a plethora of use cases that gets introduced because of 5G. And the focus really shifts from just the mobile or the user device, end user device, to so many more devices. And that's where the Internet of Things come into picture as well. So if you the next thing, if you look at the market verticals, for example, what does 5G address, right? We keep hearing about there is a big market for 5G, but what is it really? So if you look at this study that was conducted by McKinsey back in 2015, though a little old, but it's still very relevant, because they have this sizing of the market done up to 2025. And they actually split the different market verticals into these verticals. We have the human, we have the home connectivity, retail environments, offices, factories, work sites, vehicles, and so on. And what you see here are the low and high estimates of the potential size of the market, right? The one in the green color that you see is the low estimate of the size of the market. And the other side is the other end, we have the high estimate of the market. So if you really see this low and high estimates, you realize that in all these different verticals, there is a lot of potential. If you see the overall potential of all these markets, it goes from 3.9 trillion to $11 trillion, right? And just to give a perspective, India's economy, the size of India's economy is around $2 trillion. So you can imagine the amount of in different verticals that are involved that will be impacted because of technology and because of 5G especially. And if you see the user devices, or the and is one part of it, and like I was mentioning, and if you see the sizable chunk is coming from factories, it's coming from smart cities, right? It's coming from retail environments, and those are the different verticals which are really going to be big in their impact in 5G. Now, if you look at the adoption of 5G across the globe, right, we have already 92 operators in 38 countries, which have launched one or more 3GPP compliant 5G services. So if you see these 92 operators, and these are the ones where the colored ones are where the commercial 5G networks are already in use. Out of these 92, we have 84 operators have launched 3GPP compliant 5G mobile services. And 37 operators have launched these fixed wireless access 5G FWA, as they call it, or home broadband services, right? So the broadband services that we know of today with the fiber connectivity, or the ones that we get at home could be replaced soon, and it has already in some parts of the globe with fixed wireless access. So you get the same, almost the same quality of service with wired networks that with a 5G network. So this is a snap of how many kind of operators have adopted 5G across how many countries. Now, if you look at the amount of investment that the operators are making, right, because that is important. It gives you a view of how important operators are thinking this technology is going to be, right? So if you look at the number of operators and how much of investments they are doing, you realize that in North America, for example, the 5G capex, or the capital expenditure that is being done on 5G, is 87% of all the spend is on actually 5G, right? In Asia Pacific, 69% of all the spend is actually going into 5G, right? So over the next 5 years, operators are expected to invest almost $1.1 trillion in the networks, and almost 80% is going to be with 5G. So there is a sizable amount of investment that is going on in 5G. So definitely there is a lot of potential that the operators are seeing with 5G and with those various market verticals as well, which are going to really bring in revenues for the operators. Now let's look at a little bit on the 3GPP standardization timelines of 5G, and I'm sure all of you would be aware of this, but just to touch upon the standardization timelines of 5G. So back in 2018, we had the first NSA drop happening. NSA is the non-standalone architecture of 5G, right? Where we are going to be using 4G as your control plane for handling your control plane and the 5G itself, a new radio will be handling the user plane traffic, right? So we had the NSA specifications of release 15 happening in 2018, and this this little triangle that you see here is something that we will be seeing many times in this presentation. So this kind of sums up in a way all that 5G is going to be doing. So we had the first NSA drop here, and it really catered to the EMBB part of it, that is the enhanced mobile broadband, right? So we really enhanced the bandwidths and the peak data rates that I think somebody was mentioning in the beginning. That actually came in with the NSA drop. Then the SA drop, or the standalone architecture drop, that had happened in 2019 and was part of release 15 as well. And also at the same time, we started off with the release 16 activities, which was more into machine type communications, right? Critical machine type communications. So we have not gone into the MMTC, but we are talking about here at the critical machine type communications. And then in release 17, we had the full critical machine type communications and IoT profiles coming in. And that's where from EMBB, we actually started introducing things like latency. So the ultra reliable low latency communications, URLLC definitions and so on, and private 5G, that started coming in by last year, by 2020. So here it's when the full, or let's say the at least more than 50% of 5G implementations consisting of EMBB and broadband and latency aspects, throughput and latency aspects were addressed with release 17. And then really by 2021, and we have already started to look at the full massive IoT implementations, right? And we have this has to, of course, all these implementations that you see are on the radio side. But the core of the mobile network is also very essential, and we have to ensure that the core is ready to actually utilize the full potential of 5G, and that's where TSN, or the time-sensitive networking concepts in the core, started to form shape, and we had mesh networks and so on getting defined. And by end of 2022 or by 2023, we're going to have massive machine type communications. That's the entire 5G capabilities would be visible with MMTC, adding to this triangle here. So we'll have EMBB, we'll have URLLC, and we're going to have massive machine type communications, really forming the bedrock of what 5G is really about. And this is the kind of let's say the roadmap through which over the last 3 or 4 years 5G has evolved in terms of the 3GPP standardizations. Now, if you look at the, for example, commercial end user devices, right? For example, mobiles that we talk about. So the volume commercial 5G end user devices started coming out by 2018, and the mass market commercial UE devices were also visible, at least a few of them in certain developed markets. It had already started to come in. And then by last year, we already had certain 5G industrial features capable UEs. Like we said, the potential in the industry for 5G is huge, and that's where the those capable UEs were also introduced in the last year. Let's move now into the the in terms of the wavelengths and in terms of the bands that are basically in use. I think One of the questions was also about this coverage, which Guru Prasad sir was asking about. So 5G really supports three different types of bands. We have the low band, we have the mid band, and the high band. So if you look at this picture on the right, it really gives you a perspective of the kind of coverage that is possible with these different bands of frequencies in which 5G will operate. So you have the 700, 800 megahertz bands and the 1800 megahertz bands. These could be refarmed for 5G and utilized, and that's why it's part of the 5G band as well. Then you have the mid-band spectrum, which is the 2.6 to 3.5 gigahertz spectrum, which is also, this is in fact the key usage at the moment, because it is having a mix of both low band advantages as well as the really high band advantages. So I'll come to that in a second. And then we have the high band, which is really known as a millimeter wave for 5G, right? So with high bands, you're going to have, of course, the coverage is going to be low, but you're going to have extremely high data rates at this point. And this is very useful in hotspots or in very, very dense areas, dense area networks. So the high band or the millimeter wave is going to be very useful there. And the mid bands, like I said, is a in between the low and the high band, the advantages wise, because the low bands have a great advantage on coverage because of the low frequencies. It travels fast, for a longer distance and doesn't get interrupted with various obstructions and so on. So there's a lot of coverage that can be obtained with the low bands, and the mid bands is like the sweet spot. You get good coverage and you get a high capacity. It's just that the uplink could be a challenge, and therefore, if people want to upload data and so on, that in high dense areas, probably this will not work, and that's when you'll have to go into the millimeter wave or the high band areas. And this on the left side, I think this pretty much covers what I had explained here. It talks about the inverse relationship, of course, between throughput and coverage. When you have a high coverage, your throughput is going to be a little lower with the FTD centimeter wave frequencies. And as you go, in the high frequency spectrum area, you're going to have high throughput, but the coverage is going to be then a little lower. So this pretty much is what in terms of the bandwidths that at least the 5G is going to be supporting. Now, of course, there's going to be UEs and devices that will be required. So this is just a snap of, and this was, I think, one of the other questions, and in terms of the challenges in having mobile devices. And as you see, there were early vendors who had started adopting 5G, and then they came out with different CPEs or customer premises equipments or even mobiles for the mass market. And then, of course, in the beginning, it was only NSA supported, and then we moved into the NSA plus SA supporting devices here. And we are already starting to talk about release 16 supported UEs, millimeter wave supported UEs by the end of this year itself. So this is just a quick snap on the other side of the network. So we talk a lot on the network side, but not much on the UV side. But of course, it's a huge market out there, which is also growing at the same time as the network side. Now, if you look at the phases in which 5G is going to be coming in, of course, there are we already looked at the standardization and how it is moving from release across these different releases. So in the phase one, we are going to have the non-standalone architecture, single user speeds, EMBB is the main target here, right? Usage of new spectrum and introduction of really the next generation Node B. If this is just a snap in terms of what are the kind of peak rates or speeds that have been achieved in various countries in phase one. So in the USA, for example, they had reached 1.8 Gbps speeds and so on. So just a snap of what kind of speeds that had been achieved. But really, then we come into the phase two, and this is where a lot of the low latency related aspects really come into picture, because when we move from NSA to SA, we are really eliminating the 4G part of it, and therefore the 5G or the G Node B itself takes care of both the control plane, user plane, and so on. So there is definitely an improvement in the latency that will happen because of the SA architecture. And then we go into usage of the existing spectrum in the phase 2, where we talk about refarming and so on. And then the ecosystem basically matures by the end of phase 2. Okay, and then finally we move into the phase 3, and that is where really the operators would start looking at how to now make the best of the 5G network, right? In terms of how to improve the spectral efficiency, how to be more energy efficient, how to introduce automation. So many of these things where you are finally trying to get the best out of your existing network, or from the network that you've built over the last 2 phases, you will try to make the best out of it at this stage in phase 3. So this is really the phases in which the rollout should be planned. Now, let's come into the use cases of 5G, which is really the the interesting part of it, which I'd like to speak about in different by taking different examples. So, like we saw in the previous thing, we had 3 phases, right? We had the 5G phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And phase 1 really brings in eMBB and fixed wireless access, and phase 2 brings in the 5G standalone and the slicing concepts. And phase 3 and beyond is we're really talking about release 16 plus, where massive machine type communications really come into picture, and a lot of multiple devices start getting connected at this phase. So as you see in phase 1, which are the ones which would really be what kind of use cases are we going to be getting? We're going to have fixed wireless access, of course, cloud gaming, telemedicine, smart city, video analytics, a lot of video analytics related work that is going on. We have the AR, VR sort of use cases, and I have a interesting video to show later on about AR and its usage. Then we have connected venues, and then we go into private 5G networks by phase 2, and we talked about mixed reality based learnings. We talk about mentored surgery. We talk about AR based collaboration, right? And then when we go into phase 3, where we have massive machine type communication, we actually touch upon robotics, we touch upon vehicle to anything enhanced assisted driving and intelligent traffic systems and so on. So really these are the kind of use cases that get mapped into these different phases of the evolution of 5G. Now, if you look at the use case, we're getting into the use cases a bit more now. So in 3GPP TR22891, they actually define what are the potential use cases, and they have studied these use cases. And the specification is something that you can get from the 3GPP site as well. And like I was mentioning, this triangle is the key thing out here, right? We talk about enhanced mobile broadband, critical machine type communications, and massive machine type communications. And here you start seeing the kind of data rates that we are expecting from the different use cases. We have the 10 Gbps plus peak data rates of capacity and 100 Mbps anywhere, right? Latency of less than 1 milliseconds, and really connectivity of 10 lakh plus devices every square kilometer we are talking about. And with this 10 years on battery, and I think that was one of the questions Guru Prasad so was asking, oh no, what about battery life and how is it going to handle that kind of data rate? So there are improvements that have been made to ensure that we have a good battery life by changing the DRX cycles, and there are many other things that are going on in that space of study. Right now this is a view of really and this is a view that we'll keep coming back to. This is a view of really the use cases and how they map into this entire spectrum and what 5G is going to offer. So 5G, if you look at the axis here, we have a throughput, right? The high throughput, we have a reliability axis, and we have a latency axis out here. So, and when we try to map the technologies from 4G right up to 5G phase 2, right, we are moving from 4.5G to 5G in this way, where we are enhancing, of course, the throughput levels. We are also improving massively on the latency front and on the reliability front as well. Now, it's not as though, only 5G can do this. Even in LTE, some of these things are possible. But as you will see later on, that all these three aspects gets covered very well with 5G because of various advantages that 5G brings in terms of its standardization and so on studies. So when you look at, for example, immersive 360 and fixed wireless access or video analytics, and this is where it all kind of resides in, right? Where we need high throughput and the latency is not that demanding. We can have little more latency. It's okay, right? When you talk about general internet use and so on, or you're streaming something, latency is important, but it's not like an end game. So we have a higher latencies out here, whereas the throughput is ultra high or very high in these areas, right? Yeah, and the reliability is on a medium or low scale. Whereas when you start moving into this area, you start looking at very low latency use cases. So we start talking about mobile teleoperations, right? We are talking about vehicle and drone operations here at this stage. We're talking about electricity distribution, or we start talking about industrial robotics and automation. Here, the throughput might be lower, but the reliability has to be ultra high, and the network latency also has to be very, very low, right? So and this gives you a very good view of how the different technologies are getting mapped in these three axes. What is interesting is that in LT this is possible. You see the right corner, the dark color here really says that these parts of it is actually possible in LT also. You don't need 5G for it, right? But then the blue one, the light blue ones are ones where only 5G can actually cover that. So you actually need both. You need LT and you need the 5G capabilities to actually improve or increase this the use cases advantages. Right. So with 5G, we actually cover all these different use cases, and the possibilities to cover all these are happening because of 5G. Now let's look at the first use case, for instance, that one I have here, and that is on fixed wireless access. So let me try to go into that. So when you look at fixed wireless access, like I was mentioning, we are really talking about having this sort of a 5G home broadband service in the home without actually having a fiber and those kind of connectivities happening. So we don't have, it's an alternative, right? We don't need cable connectivities, and we can actually do it with wireless. And this was some service that we had started off in Australia also. Optus is one of the operators, just like Vodafone or Airtel. Optus is one of the operators in Australia, and they started giving these 5G CPEs or customer premises equipments. They have these CPEs through which you can access the internet completely. So that is one of the 5G to the home is one of the use cases that are possible. And of course, we, in the same sense, we have 5G to the business. That is also an important, let's say, use case for the business. So here in Telia network, there was a demonstration of facial recognition for making payments over 5G. So the device just takes your facial. You don't have to carry your debit cards and so on. It just does a face recognition. It connects to the network. It debits your account, and it closes the transaction. So very interesting use case here on how this was achieved in the Telia network, right? And if you really look at slicing, because then we start talking about slices, right? And when we talk about these use cases and how in these three axes we actually have our use cases spread, we are actually talking about little networks out here. So this is a little network. This is one kind of a network where, and this is one network where you have these combinations of latency, throughput, and reliability. That combination those kind of use cases come into this kind of a network and so on. So you have these little network chunks that you start creating, right? So you have one chunk of a network and you've sliced it now, and you're catering to these different use cases. So that is what your network slicing is about, trying to cater to these varied requirements from a single network, right? We're not changing any network. From one network, we are catering to these different varied use cases. And that is achieved because of this concept of a network slice. Then let's talk about video analytics, right? This was an interesting use case that happened in Lufthansa Technik. So this is a virtual, let's say, deployment of aircraft services. So Lufthansa Technik is a technical aircraft services company. So they're basically taking these planes and then they do a servicing for those planes and so on. Now, it enables now with this 5G in their factory. What had happened is back in January 2020, they had this industrial grade 5G network in the factory made, and over which they could actually ask inspections to be done of the equipment that had come into their factories, right? So if you see this, this sort of a, let's say, comment from one of the vendors. They're saying that after a year's running, IT consultant at Lufthansa said that we thought we might use a big industrial 5G use case like this for 50% of inspections and so on. But they had installed this in January last year, and then COVID came, right? And came to Hamburg. So this is in Germany, and in March, and all the travel stopped. So how can you do inspections then, right? And so suddenly they had to switch to doing all the inspections remotely. And if they had not set up that network, if you had not set it up, you would have not have been able to do any engine inspections at all. So really 5G kept my business alive. That is the business case, right? And this was a comment um, from one of the IT consultants for this particular use case here. And of course, the key requirements for doing this sort of a video analytics is here, right? So we need high bandwidth, we need low latencies, and we need high reliability with some amount of security also. So that really, is one of the key use cases for 5G. Now let's talk about immersive 360. What does immersive 360 mean here? So in EE, so EE is an operator, just like Vodafone, Idea, etc. EE unveiled UK's most immersive sports event services, right? So everything everywhere, that's what it stands for. So these guys started with what is known as immersive sports viewing. So at this moment, you all know, right? We look at the field, for example, from the camera that is feeding in. So we are able to see the match from whichever camera is showing us a match. But in this case, what happens is a person can choose from which angle he wants to see the match in. So there are multiple cameras that are located around, and you get to choose which is the angle at which you like to watch the match in, right? And that is one of the key things that EE enabled in one of the networks, right? And they had, along with it, watch together, match day live, stadium experience sort of a thing happening because of AR, VR on top of this match day experience using augmented reality and so on top of what was already available. So this really is an example of an immersive event where 5G was utilized. Now, let's go into industrial robotics and automation. And this is an interesting use case here, because here we are really talking about AR enhanced support and maintenance. And how does this work? So Schneider Electric, along with Orange, Orange is another network operator. They had done a trial of using augmented reality in the factory, right? So they had installed these five 5G antennas over a 2,000 meter production space, and they actually use augmented reality for the for the operators on the factory floor, and they use 5G for actually getting a lot of data. So how maybe we can do a I can show you a quick video on how they managed to do that, right? So let me go into, and this really would be, almost towards the end. I have another maybe 5 minutes. So let's see if you can hear the sound on this video, which really shows how Schneider Electric use 5G in their premises. Are you able to still hear? Can someone confirm?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're able to hear the video, no, sir?
Video voice is not coming, sir. It's not audible.
It's not audible, is it? Okay, maybe because okay, maybe I'll explain as the video goes on so that I can tell you what it's doing. Okay. So here is an operator who is actually come onto the factory floor, right? And he's trying to inspect within his factory and so on. What are the sort of and here you see him, pointing a device in front of this switch box, and he's actually getting all the readings from the switch box already. See, it's showing him there's high pressure and so on. And he's then, of course, calling some operator to help out with, correct it and other things. So operator immediately comes in and then he starts to make those corrections. Now, here is another operator who's looking at a complicated machinery there, and he's starting to get these inputs already that the regulator is clogged or there is high pressure. He's just pointing it there, right? And what is the kind of pressure levels that is there in that, and he's checking it all in real time. He doesn't have to do anything there, right? And he also, on top of it, he gets the entire network of how the pneumatic system is arranged. In fact, here he's going to open the door without actually opening the door, because this network already knows what is behind it. And from inside, he's able to see what is the different values of those different sensors, and when was the last service done and so on, right? So the entire machine history for him is visible by just pointing that device at it and getting the data from the sensors there. And then he, of course, takes notes also along with it. He adds it on top of this entire augmented system, right? And he then places his request for installing a grid system. Now, if you look at this is a customers coming in and trying to see, okay, what is there in the factory and what kind of, energy consumption is happening in this factory. So, so the lady is here, is pointing out to the, area, and area wise, it is actually showing you what kind of kilowatt of energy each part of that factory is actually, consuming. So this really, is makes everything very efficient in terms of how it gets handled. So this I wish the audio was there. It has a nice music to it, but then I hope you get the point of how augmented reality is also being used in some parts of the operators where this is visible. Now I'll take maybe just another 2 minutes to talk about beyond 5G and what is really coming in. And when we talk about beyond 5G, we really talk about then 6G and so on, right? So the 3GPP standardization is now really expanding from 4G to 5G. That had happened already by IMT 2020. So this spider diagram here on the left really talks about what we did when we moved from 4G to 5G, right? So these are the different, let's say, parameters or network parameters which were enhanced, right? We had the data rates, we had the spectral efficiency, mobility, latency, and these really form the critical points. And this inside layer is where 4G was. So 4G had this 10 Mbps data traffic, or spectral efficiency 1x, and 350 kilometers an hour of mobility possible, and 10 milliseconds latency. And that really pushed the envelope. 5G really pushed the envelope to make it 100 Mbps anywhere, right? 3x spectral efficiency, 500 kilometers an hour mobility, 1 millisecond latency, connection density has gone up, network energy efficiency has been really pushed high. the area traffic capacity has really gone up, and the peak data rates has moved from what was in 4G at 1 Gbps to 20 Gbps, like what we heard in the beginning. So this was how 4G to 5G evolution happened. Now, really, the 5G to 6G or beyond 5G is something that is going to be possible with IMT 2030. So what you see here on the red line is where 5G is at this moment, and we are really pushing the limits with 6G or beyond 5G networks, B5G as they call it, with from 0.1 Gbps to 1 Gbps of data rates. We had 100 Mbps there, right? We are talking about peak data rates of 1 terabytes per second, really high peak data rates. And latencies, we are talking about at 0.01 milliseconds. So extremely low latencies and extremely high connectivity densities. So this is really the shift that is going to happen from 5G to when we move into 6G by probably end of this decade. Right now, there's already some work that is happening. Nokia is also participating in the standardization processes, and this really is how the networks have evolved from 4G to 5G and then 5G to 6G in the coming years. So yes, so with this actually I come to the end of my presentation, and thank you very much for the opportunity, and I hope that there was some value that you could take back from this presentation here. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikhil sir. It was very informative, and all the use cases what you discussed and beyond 5G, all those things made us realize what we can work through and take it further more and put our research inside that. Thank you once again, sir. Now
Thank
I
you.
request Professor Yogesh to conclude the event with the vote of thanks.
Madam, is it audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good morning. Every event will have a beginning and end. Now we have come to the end of this inaugural ceremony. It's the time to show our gratitude. First, I take this opportunity to thank our BMS management, our beloved principal, Dr. B.V. Ravishankar, Vice Principal, Dr. Muralidhar S., for their moral support and guidance. Mr. NIKIL V. Bhatt speech was truly inspiring. It kept us spellbound and inspired us, and I am sure that a lot can come up after that speech. We express our gratitude for an inspiring speech and spending your precious time with us, sir. I thank Dr. H.S. Guruprasad for thought-provoking presidential speech. We are very grateful to our beloved HOD, Dr. Dakshayani M., for the backbone support and valuable guidance whenever it is required. I thank all the teaching and non-teaching staffs of our department for their support. Finally, I take this opportunity to thank all the participants for showing their interest in learning 5G technology. Thank you all.
2 minutes of your time, all the participants. I request all the participants to please log in with your name, which helps us to maintain the attendance, which we need to upload to the ATAL website. With that only, you people will get the certificates. So please, I request once again to log in with your actual name. Then we will take a short 10 minutes break and join after 10 minutes, that is around 10:55. Thank you.